students, I'm Madam Joyce from Educare TZ. I'm teaching biology, and today I'll be with you to discuss our topic, which is found in Form 5. And this topic, it is called the gaseous exchange and respiration. Whereby in our topic now we are going to discuss our subtopic, which is called the gaseous exchange in mammals. So my student, as usual, before we are proceeding further, we have to recall on where we end on the previous session, whereby we try to see a little bit introduction on the oxygen and carbon dioxide transportation in vertebrate. And we have seen an examples of the vertebrate, that is mammal, reptiles, birds, fish, amphibians, and fish. All of them, they are vertebrate. So how does the oxygen and carbon dioxide are removed or are transported from their respiratory surface to their body tissue, or from their body tissue to the surrounding environment, is here now, my student, we are going to learn. So you are warm welcome in this session, whereby we are going to start looking on the oxygen transportation in vertebrate. So how does oxygen transported within the body of an organism, that is vertebrate, specifically mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, fish, all of them, they are vertebrate. So now we are saying that in the vertebrate, oxygen is transported into two ways. So we have two ways that are involved in the transportation of a gas. And the first one, it is called the first way, oxygen is transported as a dissolved oxygen in a blood plasma. Kwa hiyo sasa ile oxygen inabidi transported as a dissolved in a blood plasma, kwa maana kwamba ile oxygen inaingia ndani ya blood plasma, inachanganyikana na blood, ndipo ambapo inaweza ikabidi transported. Lakini another way that can be transported is by means of the red blood cell. So pia hii oxygen inaweza ikatolewa kwenye ile respiratory surface ikapelekwa into different tissue that can be used by means of the red blood cell. So we're going to see how does oxygen transported as a dissolved plasma, or how does oxygen transported by means of red blood cell. So now we can say that the oxygen transported in solution form in the blood plasma accounts for the only about 2%, and the remaining 90% is transported by means of the red blood cell. So we have seen that we have two ways that are used in transportation of this oxygen. But that two ways, about 2%, that is, oxygen is transported into a blood plasma. Kwamba oxygen inasafirishwa na blood plasma kwa 2% tu. The remaining percent, oxygen are transported by red blood cell. So now about 80%, oxygen are transported by the body by means of red blood cell. So how does this red blood cell are involved in that percent to transport this oxygen within the body of an organism? And we can say that the red blood cell has the red pigment called the hemoglobin, which is responsible for transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood. So now, my student, you can see within the red blood cell now, we have seen that these red blood cells have a red pigment. Inakuwa na ile red pigment. Ile red pigment ndani ya red blood cell inaitwa hemoglobin. Hii hemoglobin ndiyo ambayo iko responsible kwa ajili ya kubeba hii oxygen na carbon dioxide, kuitoa sehemu moja kwenda sehemu nyingine inapohitajika. And now we can say that structurally the hemoglobin molecule structure consists of 4 iron containing part and 4 protein chains. So ukiangalia ile structure ya hemoglobin ambayo tumesema inapatikana ndani ya red blood cell, chembe nyekundu za damu, tunasema kwamba ile hemoglobin imetengenezwa na 4 iron compound. And also it has 4 protein chain. That is the structure of the hemoglobin, ambayo sasa inasaidia in carrying or transporting the oxygen from one region to another region. And simply we can say that each hemoglobin binds to the 4 oxygen molecules. Then it forming the oxyhemoglobin molecule. Since remember, we have said that within the hemoglobin we have iron molecule. And that iron molecule which is found within the hemoglobin ndiyo ambayo iko responsible in binding the oxygen. So ile oxygen itaungana na hemoglobin kwenye ile iron au ile 4 iron compound kwenda kutengeneza structure ambayo inaitwa oxyhemoglobin. So this oxyhemoglobin molecule ndiyo ambayo sasa hemoglobin iliyobeba ile oxygen kutoka kwenye ile respiratory surface. And thereby we are saying that this is carried to individual cell in the body tissue where it is released. So now you can see individual hemoglobin inabeba almost 4 individual molecule or individual hemoglobin inabeba almost 4 molecule of oxygen. Inatoa kule kwenye ile region ya respiratory surface, that is from the alveoli to the region where there is demand of the oxygen. But also we can say that the binding of the binding or combination of the oxygen and hemoglobin is a reversible process as it is shown in the equation below. So ile binding of the oxygen na hemoglobin, it is a reversible process, kwa maana kwamba ile hemoglobin ikisha bind na ile ile hemoglobin ikisha bind na oxygen inatengeneza structure ambayo tunaita oxyhemoglobin. Now you can see we have this individual hemoglobin. It has a tendency to combine with the 4 molecule of oxygen. Thereby ikifikisha kwenye ile specific tissue, the tissue which is required in the tissue that require or demand amount of oxygen. Now this oxyhemoglobin it tend to dissociate, inavunjika. Ikishavunjika inarudi into its original shape or its original size, that is inakuwa hemoglobin, lakini hii oxygen itakuwa imeenda kutumika kwenye ile tissue. Na ndio maana hapa tumesema it is a reversible process. Kwa sababu gani? Baada ya kufikisha ile oxygen kwenye tissue, ile hemoglobin itarudi kwenye its original shape, then itaenda kucarry another 4 molecule of oxygen. Kwa hiyo process inakuwa inaendelea repeatedly. So how does that hemoglobin is transported? How does hemoglobin transport oxygen? It is transported in this way. Now you can see in this equation, this is hemoglobin plus 4 molecule of oxygen. Thereby this is high concentration of oxygen. So pakiwa kuna high concentration of oxygen ndipo ambapo tunaenda kupata hii oxyhemoglobin, but where there is low concentration of oxygen, whereby in the tissue now is whereby there is low concentration of oxygen. So this oxyhemoglobin tend to dissociate. After dissociation now, it tend to give the hemoglobin together with the 4 molecule of oxygen, whereby the oxygen now it tend to be used within a tissue. So the clarification now of the equation. Tunasema kwamba according to the equation that we have seen, we can say that at a higher concentration of oxygen, it tend to form oxyhemoglobin. So pakiwa na concentration nyingi ya oxygen within the alveoli, ndipo ambapo sasa tunaenda kutengeneza oxyhemoglobin, that is combination between oxygen, 4 molecule of oxygen and the hemoglobin. But also whereas there is a low concentration of oxygen, ile oxyhemoglobin dissociate to form a hemoglobin and the oxygen. So within the tissue there is a low concentration of oxygen. Kwa hiyo sasa ile oxyhemoglobin ita dissociate. Baada ya dissociation nayo tunaenda kutengeneza ile hemoglobin together with the oxygen molecule. But now this dissociation release oxygen from the hemoglobin. So ile oxygen ndio ambayo inatumika sasa ndani ya tissue. So the balance can be shown by the balance can be shown by the oxygen dissociation curve of the oxyhemoglobin in the figure 6.4. And this figure, my student, will going to see into the next part of this session. And thank you for your attentively listening.